This video will contain massive spoilers. If you have not watched the movie yet, click off this video right now if you don't want to get spoiled. With that being said, hello and welcome to Undervisey. Today we are going to talk about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness because I finally got the opportunity to watch this movie, and of course, in a typical fashion, I have my thoughts over this. Now, after watching this movie, I can certainly understand why the reviews and why the critic reviews were kind of conflicted over this, and why even the general audience reviews were also conflicted over this. I typically do not care much about the critic reviews. I tend to make my own personal opinion, and I don't really bother if a movie is lower rated or higher rated. I typically go in with my own assumptions, with my own preconceived notions, and owing to which, after watching the movie, I make my own, ground rules, or I make my own reviews, because that is what I personally believe after watching a movie, and that's what I try to share here with you all. These are, at the end of the day, subjective opinions. These are not objective opinions. These are simply my personal feelings and thoughts. And I cannot say that this is going to be the same for every single person out there. But in this video, or rather this two-parter video, because I want to divide this video into two parts, I just want to share my opinion in regards to this much-awaited movie. Did it deliver? What were the good parts? What were the bad parts? I just want to talk about all of them. So with that being said, once again, hello and welcome to Undervisey, and I'm going to basically divide this video, as I said, into two separate parts. This is going to be the first part where I'm going to talk about the good aspects, and the next one would be going into the bad aspects. Now again, these are once again simply my personal opinion. This is not a hard and fast rule that you have to like or dislike something just on the basis of this video, just on the basis of my assumption of a movie. So let's start this right out the gate with this being a Sam Raimi movie. I absolutely loved every single aspect, every single directorial or productional level aspect of this movie in that particular regard. There were a ton of horror and gory elements which were evident right from the very get-go. I mean, as a person who wears specs and as a person who has a bit of a phobia related to eyes, the moment when I got to see that monster Shumagorath, or sorry, they are not calling it Shumagorath right now, they're probably calling it Gargantos right now. But anyway, the moment I saw that guy, that creature getting stabbed into the eye and his eye just popping out, I had a visible reaction. I was like, oh, okay, this is a Sam Raimi movie. This is actually going to contain a lot of gore. And oh boy, it delivered. It absolutely delivered in that particular aspect. And Marvel was basically pulling apart or just, flatlining the PG-13 rating. It was at a lot of times going into the rated R category. Again, I know this was a huge debate as to why Marvel is not going into the rated R category for this particular movie, but I think that for what it's worth, with the PG-13 audience, this movie delivered 100% on its actual premise of being an absolute madness full with horror, gore, and all those, goody stuff. So that definitely delivered. The next aspect which I really enjoyed a lot was the Scarlet Witch. Not Wanda Maximoff, but the Scarlet Witch. I wanna give a distinction here that Wanda is a separate entity and the Scarlet Witch is a separate entity. I'm not saying that these are two different personalities, I'm just talking about the two aspects of this character. Wanda's character, I kind of felt that it was a bit weak, especially her resolution. I was not really a fan of it, but again, I'm going to discuss all of those things in the second part of this video. So for the first part of this video, I'm specifically going to talk about the Scarlet Witch, and I really enjoyed it a lot. It gets a massive thumbs up, or rather, if you watch What Culture, this gets a golden thumbs up. Yeah, this was really interesting and this was really good. Even at this moment, Marvel is still not able to catch up to the comic levels of madness for Scarlet Witch, but still, for what it's worth, this was incredibly well done. We got to see the true ruthless nature of an unchained and unmorally bounded Scarlet Witch. This was incredible. She was a character like, if you're playing a video game, you get the controls for the character, right? So if you turn off a morals control, it's exactly what we are getting here. She is desperate. She is absolutely going right into it. She has one goal in mind, and in order to achieve that, she's going to destroy everything that is currently in her path. It doesn't matter if she kills hundreds and thousands of people, she's least bothered with all of them. She's just moving forward towards her one particular goal. And in order to achieve that, she's ready to do every single thing. And owing to this, I finally arrive at the mirror dimension stuff. The mirror dimension is something which I've always enjoyed in the Marvel movies. They are basically a moment where the people behind the scenes, the special effect artists, are just flexing. They are basically flexing that, hey, look how good we are able to achieve these special effects. So pretty much I've always enjoyed a lot of these scenes, but here this time around, oh my goodness, this was right something out of the Ring movies, wherein Wanda is actually able to use the reflections to get out of the mirror dimension, and she's trying to get out of these cracks and whatnot. She's trying to appear out of the water, and this scene really marked me a lot when she's absolutely deformed and sort of comes out like the girl from the Ring movies. And this really was amazing in my opinion, and it absolutely sets the overall tone of this movie. Moving forward, I feel like once again Doctor Strange delivered a lot. I mean, the regular 616 Doctor Strange, because yes, we are getting a confirmation that this MCU Earth is actually 616. Typically what we knew before the comic universe is the actual Prime Earth, or the Earth Prime as it is called in the comics. It is the 616 universe, and the MCU universe was typically called the 1999999 universe. But here we are getting the confirmation that no, screw that, this is the 616 universe. So Strange in the 616 universe, I really liked his overall portrayal. There are some problems with it later on, but again I'm going to talk about that in the second half of this video. But here, what I really enjoyed was Doctor Strange's own personal battle. In the comics, most of the time we have seen Tony Stark himself battling with his own demons, but here it is Doctor Strange himself who is just still not able to get over the problems of his life. And we are actually getting a PTSD sort of vibe with this particular Doctor Strange, where he is still coming to the terms that he has lost the person whom he loved. He cannot marry her anymore. She has moved on. He has absolutely blown it apart. And not just him, it is something which is consistent with the entire multiverse. It didn't happen with anyone whatsoever. And not just that, he's still facing the repercussions of the Thanos battle, the blip and the snap. He's still getting questioned by the people. I mean, obviously he's going to get questioned, but he's still getting questioned that, was your decision actually right? Was there absolutely no other way possible to do this particular thing? Was that the only other way to move forward? Was that the only other way to victory? And these questions, you can visibly see that how Strange is getting, annoyed, and not just annoyed, but rather he's getting uncomfortable with all of these things, because he still has to relive all of those things, which I thought was a brilliant touch. There's not a lot of cameos and not a lot of references to the other movies, barring a few here and there. I mean, I'm talking from the main continuity of the MCU. Of course, Doctor Strange talks about Hawkeye and his new mohawk, and of course there's a lot of giggles about Spider-Man with America Chavez, because she's like, what's a Spider-Man? What is a Spider-Man? Is it literally a man as a spider? I thought that this was a really clever reference to the comics of Man Spider, but yeah, that's a topic of discussion for another day. There were definitely some comic Easter eggs and comic book nudges, but I felt like the references to the other MCU properties was a little less, and that might be something which a lot of people don't enjoy, but I was honestly fine with it. Moving forward, let's talk about some misdirects from the trailer, because Marvel loves to do so. So when I watched this trailer for the very first time, I thought that, hey, this zombie looking guy, this zombie Strange, because let's be real, he looks absolutely like him with these add-ons and additions. I thought that he was probably going to be a villain who is going to emerge from the mountains, from the Wondergore mountains. But lo and behold, it's not exactly like that. In fact, he becomes sort of the hero of this movie, because it's our 616 Strange who is trapped into another dimension, who is dream walking into the corpse of Defender Strange, and he's using the soul of the damned to be his astral projections aid, and he's just using all of them for these additional powers. Again, Sam Raimi fans are going to absolutely love this part. I've not really seen, the movie which everyone is talking about, but for what it's worth, I really enjoyed this a lot. This was quite a big misdirect for me personally. I was not expecting it at all, and I really enjoyed all of these parts. Wong, let's just talk about Wong for a bit. I truly believe that he now deserves a TV series of his own or a web series of his own. I love this guy, and his evolution for such a long time has been amazing, absolutely amazing. And now let's finally talk about the Illuminati. One of the biggest MacGuffins of this movie. It has its bad elements, let me clear it right off the bat. There is definitely some major bad elements from this, but at the same time there are some very good parts as well. One of the most beloved parts was obviously John returning, or rather John appearing, not returning, sorry, but John appearing as Mr. Fantastic. I was just so glad, I was just so happy to see it happen. I know what happened later on was devastating and kind of stupid as well, but I was just glad to see that this casting is finally happening. This has been a fan cast for, I don't know, years and years now, and to see it actually happen on screen, amazing, absolutely incredible. Black Bolt, he was kind of fine, and for the rest of the Illuminati characters, I'm going to talk about them in the second part of this video because of certain reasons. But let me talk about Professor Charles Xavier. Oh boy, this was amazing. I loved every single bit of his screen presence, of his on-screen presence, and the moment when he appeared in screen, we actually get to hear a very slowed down or a very mellowed down version, but nonetheless an actual version of the X-Men cartoon series theme song. That I know this was a horrible rendition of it, but I just had to do it because I cannot add the actual music here because of copyright issues. So pardon me with my absolutely horrible rendition of that particular song. But nonetheless, this was amazing, and I really enjoyed the bits with Professor Charles Xavier. Lastly, if I'm gonna talk about it, America Chavez, her portrayal was really good here, and I feel like this is a general opinion. All the actors have done a really good job. They have really exemplified their emotions and how the story actually works with them. Wanda Maximoff, or rather the Scarlet Witch, was absolutely incredible here, and overall, let's just say that I really enjoyed this movie a lot. It wasn't by far the best movie I've ever seen in the MCU, but I'm just glad that we are getting some extra stuff deviating from the general lineup or the general formula of the MCU. One of the biggest complaints of the MCU, or rather comic book movies in general, has been that they are getting stale, there's nothing new for them, and soon people are going to have a comic book fatigue. I'm probably going to make a separate video for this entire phenomenon because I believe that this is no longer the case. Movies are experimenting. First it was Eternal. Again, this was a movie which I just got to watch a couple of weeks back. I have my thoughts on that, so probably I'll talk about that later on, but I'm just glad that we are getting some different kind of stuff. People are experimenting, directors are experimenting, we are getting different kind of movies, which is always a good part. This movie definitely had much more amounts of gore, and the horror aspects were also really good. I could really make out a lot of the jump scares and a lot of the Conjuring inspired moments which were really good, and there are certain parts which do not work at all. I'm going to talk about that later on, but for what it's worth, I feel like this was a really good movie, really well done movie. The only problem lies probably towards the end with the script's execution, but other than that, enjoyed this a lot. So that's it for the first part of this video. There are many more stuff which I actually want to discuss, but I feel like this is enough for a first video. I probably want to go much more in depth over a couple of different aspects of this movie, specifically regarding the fate of the Illuminati characters, what happened with the Ultron bots, what happened with Mr. Fantastic, what happens to the future of Wanda, etc. more and more. But for now, this is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more. This is WonderYZ. See you all on the next one.